Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a webinar, Do's and Don'ts for Becoming a CMCA Course Provider. My name is Laura Lozano, and I am the Credentialing Associate at CAMICB.
And my name is Karina May, and I am one of the webinar administrators here at CAMICB.
So today we're going to be covering several items. First, we'll go over what the CMCA is, and then we'll go over the CAMICB Continuing Education Course Providers homepage. Then we will review the new CAMICB Continuing Education website, the application process, top 5 reasons applications are denied, and then finally the approval process. Okay, so CAMICB, previously NBC CAM, was established in 1995 with a goal of creating a credentialing program anchored by strong examination and continuing requirements for professional excellence. So what is the CMCA and what is CAMICB? CAMICB stands for Community Association Managers International Certification Board, and the CMCA stands for Certified Manager of Community Associations. CAMICB is the organization that administers the CMCA certification, which is internationally recognized with over 20,000 managers certified worldwide. We are also nationally and internationally accredited. We have received international accreditation through NC by complying with standards ISO 17024, and this is for the recognition of the value of our program. Now, community association managers with a CMCA need to take 16 hours of continuing education every 2 years to maintain their certification. And so this is why we need continuing education course providers who are qualified and have quality programming to offer to our CMCA so that they can obtain this renewal requirement. Now, let's go ahead and navigate to the continuing education course providers homepage. You can find that on our website at www.camicb.org. If you hover your cursor over the recertification menu option, you'll see the third option is the Continuing Education Course Providers Overview. And then this is here a screenshot of the page that you'll see. And when you scroll down, you'll see this bright blue button that says Start Continuing Education Provider Application. Now, when you click on that, this will bring you to the new CAMICB Continuing Education website. So this is the website you'll want to bookmark for easy access, and you'll also find all of the materials you need to become an approved course provider, such as what course topics and information is acceptable. You'll also find the submission deadline date is scheduled for the year for when the applications need to be submitted to be reviewed during the month's Continuing Education Review Committee meeting. We'll cover that a bit later during this webinar. So once you go onto this website, you'll want to set up an account. And once you set up an account, you'll be able to submit new applications and search through your submitted as well as approved courses. You'll also find on this page helpful links to a roster and certificate template once you have them approved. Okay, so now to submit a new application, you'll want to select on the provider application option, which you see here in the first screenshot. And then this will take you to the lower screenshot where you can either view previous submissions or begin a new submission. Now, for our purposes in this webinar, we will be reviewing the new submission process. If you have not already created an account for this web page, the application will prompt you to create an account before proceeding. So the application process consists of 3 pages on the application. The first page here will require your basic information, organization, and the instructor who will be submitting the course. You'll include here the course content, of course, organization, name, location, and email address. Now, you'll want to make sure that the contact's name and email address is correct because it will be listed publicly on the continuing education gallery. So you want to be sure you're providing the right information for CMCAs to contact. The second page that we will review consists of course information, and then the final page will be the co-presenters. So let's go ahead and move on to the second page. This is where most of your information is going to be listed. So you'll have several sections to provide all of the information regarding your course for CAMICB to review for approval, which we're going to go ahead and cover in the detail in the following slide. Okay, so Karina, can you go ahead and review the items covered in this slide?
Sure. So there's a lot of text on this page, but we're going to walk through each of these. And first off, you'll notice that some of these are starred, and that means that when you submit the information in your application, we're going to use this information to list in your listing on the public gallery. So you're going to want to be conscientious about what you include on there, because this information is what's going to be publicly displayed. Now, first you'll want to include your course title for your program, seminar, webinar, or whatever your program is. And then next, you're going to want to go into the description of the program. So this is where you're going to include pertinent information for CMCAs to know about this course, such as what is the course going to cover, who's going to be presenting, what sort of skills or knowledge will they expect to obtain. So the things that CMCAs will be looking for, and further information about what is involved in your course. Next, you'll have learner outcomes. And this is for CAMICB to review to determine what CMCAs will gain as a result of this class. So basically, how is this going to impact and enhance the manager's knowledge? Then you'll want to look at the course delivery. And for the delivery, there are 3 options. The course can either be in person, live, or on demand. And live is a one-time or virtual event, while on demand is an ongoing virtual option. Next is kind of a big section, and this is the course materials section. If you previously submitted applications with the PDF application, you'll recall that you had to attach various documents to the application. And this is essentially the same thing, except instead of attaching your course material to an application in this section, you'll be uploading that information. So this is where we're going to upload the documents that you used to attach to the PDF. So the detailed outline, copy of handouts, copy of the presentation materials, your copies of any advertising that you plan to do, as well as your speaker biography and contact information. And if you don't remember what you need to upload, the application does list everything that you need here right above this section. So just so you're aware of what you need to include. And I also did want to note here that educational content cannot have promotional material. And biographies are not the same as a resume. So those are just 2 little tidbits to remember when you're submitting this information. Next, we have tracking attendance, and there are 3 options. There is yes, no, or other. And the bottom line is that you do need to track attendance, so you can either really select yes or other and explain how you're going to be tracking attendance. Part of our policy is that all course providers must track attendance and then submit a roster to CAMICB after each administration. So if you select no in this section, that's grounds for an automatic denial. So please be aware of this. The next section is the on-demand URL section. So you'll probably want to be pretty cautious when using this section. If you have a live webinar that is going to be converted to an on-demand webinar, consider using a link to your organization course homepage for CMCAs to navigate to, so they aren't directed to a dead registration link after your live course ends. Next is program dates. These can be TBD, but it's more appealing if you can include a definite date or an ongoing option. Next, we have location. So where is this going to be held? If it's virtual, what platform are you planning on using? And so on. And now for number 10, continuing education hours. How many continuing education hours are you looking to have this approved for? This will need to correspond to how many hours of instruction there will be. Please note that CAMICB does not approve any program that is less than 1 hour in length. And then next, there's the course fee. You're certainly allowed to charge a fee, but if you do plan on charging a fee, please be sure that you are specific about how much you plan on charging. And then lastly, here on the right, we have a few questions. So the first question is, has the course been previously approved by CAMICB? If the course has been previously approved, this actually means that your application process will be really simple. Instead of uploading all of your course materials, if your course has stayed substantially the same or similar to your previous approval, then all you have to do to obtain approval for this course is to upload your previous course approval in this section. And then you won't have to upload all of those course materials. If your course has changed significantly, though, you want to make sure that you upload your course material in that course material section, just so that we can review it to determine if it's still acceptable. And then there's also the next question. Has this course been approved by a state regulatory agency for community manager licensing? If you have had this course approved with a state regulatory agency, you'll just need to upload your state approval notice, similar to the previous option. Essentially, this will act as your approval for us. And that way we don't have to go through all of your course material. We can just verify that this has been approved previously by an acceptable provider. And then lastly, there is the provider attestation. This is where you're going to virtually sign that you agree to abide by all of CAMICB's continuing education requirements and policies if you are approved, including providing all CMCAs who attend your programs with certificates of attendance, and of course, submitting rosters of attendees to CAMICB after each administration. All right, so that was everything on the second page, which I mentioned is the bulk of the information that you'll be submitting. And then this is the final page, the co-presenters page, and this is where you're going to include information about your co-presenters. This is not where you upload all of your instructor information. This is more for if you have more than one person working on this program together. So for instance, if two organizations are working on this program together and you want to make sure the other person who you're working with gets an email about this course, then you'll want to include that information. So once you've included the presenter's information, you'll want to hit save and finalize, and then you'll receive a confirmation email once your application has been submitted successfully. So next, we're going to go through the top 5 reasons applications are typically denied. The first and foremost is that the target audience for this course is not geared toward community managers. Community association management is a distinct profession, and while it is similar to its counterpart, property management, there are separate and unique professions, and there are important distinctions. So if we see throughout the program that you refer to property managers instead of community association managers and things of that nature, that's an automatic red flag for us, and we'll probably deny the course. Another top reason that courses are denied is if we see company logos on every slide containing educational content. That's also another red flag for us. Company logos are not allowed on every slide, but however, we do allow them to be on the contact and the interaction slides. But we want to make sure that it's not promotional in any nature, and we want to make sure that the education is not specifically promotional and that it is educational for our CMCA managers. Now, if you do have concerns over copyright, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a logo on every page. You can just have something at the bottom that says copyright of your organization. But please just be very aware that if you have your company logo on each of those slides, that is grounds for denial. The third reason an application might get denied is education requested for non-educational programming. So credit hours are going to only be awarded for educational content. So happy hours, dinners, welcome remarks, anything like that is not acceptable for continuing education, or that would be denied. Fourth, continuing education is requested for programs less than 1 hour. As we noted before, we can only approve programs that are a minimum of 1 hour in length. So anything below 1 hour would be denied. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, you do need to track attendance. Course providers must submit a roster at least 45 days after each administration for ongoing or on-demand courses. If you're holding these consistently, just try to submit your course roster at least every 45 days. And those are our top 5 reasons why applications are typically denied. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the approval process itself. Applications are first reviewed by staff to determine if all of the materials have been submitted correctly. The Continuing Education Review Committee that looks over all of these applications meets each month, and staff will send the applications submitted before the month's submission deadline date to be reviewed for approval. Once the committee determines which courses are approved, staff will send the corresponding notices to the course providers depending on if they've been approved or denied. The approval emails will include the requirements for providers to abide by for their newly approved courses, including information on how to send certificates and rosters. And then approved courses will be uploaded to the Gallery of Continuing Education. And this here is a screenshot of the Continuing Education Gallery and what that looks like. So you'll be able to just see how we'll be listing your course once it's been approved. And that concludes our webinar for today. If you have any questions, please go ahead and email us at info@camicb.org. And thank you so much for attending today and have a great afternoon.